Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim Matthews. Tim, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing very well. As I take a drink of water.
I love asking you questions right before you take a bite or a drink of water, especially for these shows.
Yeah, I'm doing well. I felt a little bit ill this morning, to be honest. I woke up, supposed to work out, and supposed to have it's kind of like a PT session, but the guy that teaches me, he owns the gym, and he's done all sorts of work, from being the bodyguard for like a Saudi prince, to working on the doors, to fighting in MMA, all sorts. So I reached out to him last week and I was like, look, I want you to put a plan together for me that basically shows me how I would learn the skills to be able to just defend myself, right? Because although we do some Thai boxing, it's not super practical, right? If someone breaks in to the house, we live in the middle of nowhere. If someone breaks in, I'm not going to start Thai boxing them, am I?
Maybe.
Yeah, I could get into that stance. So anyway, last week was the first session of this little plan that is taking me through. And honestly, the real scenario here is kind of worst case scenario, because Amelia keeps sharing different conspiracy theories with COVID with me, and you can tell she's like freaking out a bit. What about this? What about that? I'm like, look, we're not going to end up in that position. And the position she's talking about is, well, what if we get, she's gone so far down the rabbit hole. She's like, what if we end up in this position, like a lot of people, like some people, where we can't work and we can't do this and we can't do that. And I'm like, look, it's just not going to be a thing. Like, it's not. I refuse to accept a certain reality, right? Because it doesn't serve to go down that particular rabbit hole. Anyway, long story short, last Saturday, she was bringing something else up, and I said, look, we're going to be fine. We'll be cool. And that one was more around like, are we prepared if the worst case was to happen, be it for food, be it the world going crazy, right?
Sure.
And I said, yeah, look, we're fine. You keep saying that, but I don't see any action. I'm like, ooh. She clearly just called me out, at which point I'd had conversations with this guy various times around self-defense and what would you do and all that kind of stuff during the Thai boxing session. So I messaged him like, look, I've been called out. I want you to put a plan together. So then last Tuesday was the first session. It was great. Just talking about dominance and how people try and exert dominance, and how you can just do little things to just basically deflect it. Yeah, also then maintain, kind of take the dominance from them, but whilst also nullifying the attack. So not like Krav Maga.
Yep.
But anyway, point being is I was supposed to work out with him this morning. Didn't feel good. So I just had a sauna, decided to rest a little bit, and then here we are, and I'm ready to rock and roll.
Love it. Love it. So many things I want to share with you around those ideas, but that's not for this podcast, probably.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure the guys would benefit from this conversation. Tim, I do have a question that came in, or a topic that got thrown on the table. So what I mean by that is some of the men had asked questions that they would like us to cover. So I think we should still go through those. And here's one that came up. It said, hey guys, I'd love for you to talk about tips to best connect with a woman who is continually in her masculine due to her job role, and then she brings that work home. What do you think, Tim?
You've got to get her out of that state, right? Even the most masculine, strong, feminine leader is going to want to relax and surrender into the arms of a masculine man, right? She just is. So regardless of what role she's playing at work, one, she's got to know and trust that you're able to hold the space for her, right? So be it her giving you a shit test and you're passing it, be it her coming home and being stressed out still, and you've been able to remain solid and grounded and diffuse it, and whatever you do, right, there's many different scenarios here, but whatever you do, that the point is you've got to be able to shift her state out of the masculine into her feminine by you taking the frame as the masculine, right? And then when done consistently, it becomes a lot easier for her to then come home and kind of just almost fall into a role, because it just becomes the norm when she walks in through the door, right? But that starts with you being consistent. It's not so much about connection, I don't think, as much as it is about consistency. Consistency with your actions and consistency with your state, so that you can reclaim that frame. But more importantly, she sees you as holding that frame, regardless of how masculine she is at work.
And that's 100% right. And what happens here for a lot of men is they're naturally masculine guys, but after shit test, after shit test, after shit test, they've fallen into the quote, good guy role, right? And they've become a little bit more, well, they've become beta, quite honestly. And we see this with guys that, when you hear about a guy being beta, you kind of already have this skinny, weak guy in your mind, but that's not the case usually. A lot of these guys that come to our program are, these are alpha men in every other area of their life, generally speaking, and they're beta in this area. And so what you want to do here, guys, is as Tim said, you got to hold that container all the time, be the lighthouse we talk about. And a lighthouse doesn't move. And this is like a lot of other things in your life that you're able to hold consistently, right? And I call this the heroin talk, right? For most men, we talk to, no matter how drunk they are, no matter what the situation, if you put heroin on the table, they're not going to take it, right? They could be almost blackout drunk, but they know with consistency, like there's just no way, Doug. I'm that adamant that heroin is not going to be a positive effect in my life, so it's not there. And I use that as an analogy. You need to be that adamant about your frame, the state that you're in. I take the dominant role. It doesn't mean you're a jerk, right? That's not what Tim and I are talking about here. What it means is you're very calm and confident. So you also get to anchor your wife. And what I mean by this is when she comes home, there gets to be a routine that she falls into that allows her to be in her feminine. So one guy that's in the program, right? He's in our inner circle, which means he went through our activation method, which is our flagship 8-week program on how to save your marriage. And then he continued on, which is one of our higher level 1-year mastermind groups. And what he does, Tim, is as soon as his wife comes home, she sets her bags down, right? She's got her purse and her laptop bag. And she gives the kids a hug and kiss. And then she immediately goes into their master bedroom and has a bath, right? Sometimes she has a glass of wine while she's in there, usually about 45 minutes or so. And then when she comes out, she is this feminine goddess, as he describes it. But that only happens because he set the tone. When it first started, she wanted nothing to do with the bath. She'd come home, she'd rant, she'd rave. The house wasn't clean enough. He was there earlier. She needed to get more work done. What are the kids doing? It just went all this banter back and forth, and she just took charge. She's a manager at her business, so she's in charge of a lot of staff. She took that kind of alpha business owner, the alpha boss woman, to the house and started bossing her husband around. Well, he didn't want to be a jerk, so he stepped in line right at the beginning. Going through the activation method, what he did is he figured out how to flip this script to what you're talking about. And, the first time she comes home, like this, and she's in this energy, and he's like, babe, I drew you a bath. I want you to go in there and take some time. She was like, what? I got all this stuff going on. I don't need a bath. And he just was adamant. Nope, this is not working for our family. I need you to go take a bath, relax. I got a glass of champagne in there. And when she saw how serious he was from a loving place, right? He cared about her wellness and the family's wellness. She surrendered a little bit into it, right? She got in the bath and she had a great time, right? In there. And he started reinforcing this again and again. Babe, she come home. Like, no, the bath was great last time, but I can't do it this time. Nope. Into the bath. And this became a habit and a ritual for he and his family and his wife. Now, it doesn't happen every time, but most of the time it does. And this becomes an anchor, kind of like when you go into a dojo, Tim. One of the things you do in a dojo is you bow as you enter and you bow as you leave. Now, you don't do this with a lot of now more modern MMA places. But one of the reasons, Sensei told me, he said, Doug, one of the reasons you do the bowing when you leave is you're leaving the fighting spirit there. So you don't take that fighting energy out into the real world. Now, this is the same thing you guys want to do with your wives. Create a ritual that allows her to leave work at home, right? We talk about this for men in the alpha decompression program that we have for the guys. Leave the work at home and allows her to slip into her femininity when she's at home. And she knows that you as a man are the leader, right? You're taking charge. That doesn't mean she doesn't get to make decisions and you have to do everything. It doesn't mean that at all, guys. This is just strictly a frame, right? Just a frame of reference to go through. So the bath is one thing you can do, right? And set that tone, but have some sort of ritual that allows your partner to fall into her femininity. A couple things with feminine energies, you can't rush it. So there can't be like, hey, you got 30 minutes and I need you out. Nope, you don't rush the feminine. So there's got to be something that she's able to surrender into. Maybe that bath's 5 minutes. Maybe it's an hour and a half. You guys got to figure that out. Again, doesn't have to be a bath. It's just I'm using that as an example that one of the men has used effectively going through there. And what this guy does is he lights the candles for her and creates the environment for her. That's his choice, right? I'm sure sometimes he slips and doesn't do it and she just goes in there and everything's fine. But most of the time, because he's home before her, he lights the candles, he pours her a glass of wine, and she goes through that. She feels, according to him, she feels like the queen, thus, ergo, he is the king.
Yeah, it's a great one. She's going to resist it at first as well, right?
Yep.
She just is. But I think, like you said, when you're coming from that loving, firm place, it's wolf, wise, open, loving, fierce, right? When you come from that place, instead of dear, defend, excuse, explain, react, it's just a different game that you're playing.
100%.
And she knows that there's a boundary there and that's what's going to happen. And then once the result is good, right, she enjoys the bath and she feels better. Because oftentimes when she walks through the door and she is in her masculine, she's not going to really be able to feel any contrast to being in her feminine. So it's only until she gets back in her feminine, or only when she gets back in her feminine, that it's kind of like, okay, wow, I feel good now versus before, right? But you've got to be the one that takes the lead within that role to guide her to that place. Because if you don't, then the chances are then she's going to walk in through the door and just continue to be busy with all the stuff she's been busy with during the day, taking care of people or managing people. She'll just go and try and manage the kids or manage you or manage the house or whatever, which isn't a place where intimacy is going to take place.
No, not at all. And again, it is about setting that tone here. Kind of funny. It's a role reversal, but I know a guy who runs a big tech company, right? Very, very, very big. You would know, everybody listening to this would know the company. And I was talking to him having a beer one time. This is in Santa Barbara when I lived there. And every day he comes home, the door is locked and his running shoes are at the front of the door. He and his partner have an agreement that because he came home with such erratic energy, he goes for a run before he can come in the house every day during the week. And it works for them. It works for him. And I think the conversation came up when I was just talking to him about one, how great a shape he was because he's a runner, right? And he's like, Doug, no, I'm a runner only because my wife won't let me in the house. You guys can do the same thing, role reversal though, right? And the sense of like creating this, not like your wife can't come in until she does this, but create the ritual in such a manner. Maybe it's a workout for your wife. Maybe that allows her to slip into her femininity, a yoga session or something along those lines. But figure out what that is. And then afterwards, as one of the guys suggested in the comments, collecting her berries, right? We talk about this in other podcast episodes. giving her a chance to download, right, all of her day, right? And if you guys aren't familiar with that concept, go over to thepowerfulman.com/podcast. And you can find episodes where we talk about, one, what the heck am I talking about? Emptying berries for your wife. Two, how it works, how to do it properly. We have several that we've talked about that. So I don't want to waste everybody's time here. But you want to give her the ability to download everything, let her day go, right? And that could be you coming into the bath 15 minutes after she's been in there and sitting down and just saying, how was your day? And then letting her, what else? Letting her talk. What else? Tell me more. And you can do that in that context. I know several of the guys in the program that do the bath routine, because it's just an easy one for a lot of guys to put together. A lot of times they get pulled into the bath and it turns into a very intimate situation, or the shower afterwards, or, there's all kinds of things coming in, because a woman, when she surrenders into her femininity, really becomes a very sexual being, a very sensual being, right? Especially if she's around the masculine, becomes that magnets, right? Opposites attract. So for these guys, Tim, I know your partner, Amelia, who you talk about often here on the podcast, is a very strong woman, right? So if you weren't a strong man, she would take the alpha role all the time. And it tends to happen as the men that come through our program, they're very strong men, as I said earlier, and their wives tend to be very strong. And the script has been flipped on them over time, where, we talk about the scales. Their relationship has been such a manner that over time, very micro changes, I would say, the wife has taken control, right? Because the man has relented the control. She released the control. And this is where we get to change it. So you're going to create a ritual where your wife comes home. Wife comes home and you allow her to slip into her femininity. You're going to be consistent with your energy, as Tim said. You're going to empty her basket, so to speak. And then I would suggest the last thing you want to do here, remember the last one I'm going to give you, is you need to make a decision for the family. Maybe that decision is what you're going to eat for dinner. Maybe that decision is where you're going to do for the weekend. But you need to start being more decisive, because what I see a lot of you guys going through out there, and I've been this place too, is you're going to be a good guy, and so you're going to do it by consensus. I'll use dinner because it's an easy one. What do you want for dinner? I don't know. Anything's fine. That forces the woman to have to make all the decisions, go into her masculine, right? Make the decision. We've talked about, when you're dating your wife, take her on a date, but you set everything up. Not, hey, what do you want to do on our date? No, we're going to this restaurant. We're doing this. You're going to wear this kind of outfit. Here's what I want you to be prepared for. And you surprise her. We've got men in our private community that share photos, and there's threads that were going around where guys were taking their wives out and really surprising them. Concerts, restaurants, indoor picnics, all kinds of creative ideas, guys, that you can do. But the key here is you're making the decisions and you're guiding her. You're leading her. That's what an alpha male does, is a leader. And by being a leader, it means you make the decisions and you guide the person. And you want to do this in a very stable yet loving way. You can still be fun with this. See, a lot of times guys get so serious about this because I got to be alpha, I got to be in this frame. No, the best way to do it is smile and have fun. Smile and have fun.
Yeah, it reminds me of last night even. Sat on the sofa with Amelia. I got to put something on. She's like, I don't want to watch this. 5 minutes later, she's laughing and joking and loving watching it. Right? Whereas if I would have responded, what do you want to watch? What else? We would have still been looking this morning.
Yeah.
So it's just a simple example, but she's going to follow your mood. She's going to follow you in it. She's going to follow your energy. She just is.
Yeah. And guys, you can do this like last night, similar to me, Tim. We're watching a show called Yellowstone, which is really popular over here. It's great. Recommend it. My wife was excited to watch it. And I said, look, I'll watch it at 8:00, not 8:05, because I want to be in bed at early because I got a big day tomorrow, things that I want to get done, like producing this podcast with you. So come downstairs. I'll have it all set up. Grab this, a couple of things I wanted her to grab, and I'll see you down there. in 2 minutes. And that's very firm. And I was loving about it. And, she came down, put blankets over each other. We had a good time and, we enjoyed the show. But even though my wife kind of picked, so to speak, that, hey, I want to do this, I was still able to lead the situation from a very loving place. Like, great, let's do it. But this is the parameters, right? 6:00 now. I have things I'm going to go do this, and this. 8:00, between 8 and 8:05, not 8:06, Yellowstone will be on, right? And it'll be on downstairs, this TV, and just leading from that frame. Again, not in a jerk way, but in a loving way, and doing it from that place. And like I said, we had a great time, and that just completely shifts the woman's energy, all together. So great question, guys. I love that you guys are bringing these questions to the table. We're getting more and more. We just had one actually submitted while we were recording this podcast. I had to turn my alerts off from another great guy who will be at the Alpha Reset. Guys, we're hosting an Alpha Reset here in Central Oregon, Bend, Oregon, where I live. And we're doing one this week. So when this podcast comes out, I will be in the midst, Tim, of leading these men. 13 men descend upon this huge property we got right on the river. It's going to be gorgeous, and it's going to be such a transformational experience. It's going to be absolutely amazing. So I'm very excited.
It sure will. I'm excited for it as well.
So gentlemen, your call to action for today is don't go on to another podcast. Take some action. I want to know, Tim wants to know, what are you going to do to reclaim the frame in your marriage? What are you going to do to have your wife, or help your wife, go from this masculine frame that does not serve her, by the way, and let her slip into that sexy feminine energy that both you and her love? Let us know in the Facebook group, and we'll see you next time on The Powerful Man Show.